Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Gurudev. Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj. Srila Bhakti Rakha Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. And Jai Shri Prabhupada. Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai. Shri Rupa Nuga Guru Bhagavad ki Jai. All glory to Sri Guru and Gauranga. And today, by the grace of Praneshwari, we can say all glories to Shri Shri Saparika, Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandhavika Giridhari Ju. Is that correct? Yes, Giridhari Ju, Ki Jai. These are the so-called deities. The deities in Santa Cruz. Actually, Gurudev liked the name Santa Cruz. For some reason, he didn't like the name Sokel. It didn't sound so sweet to him. But Santa Cruz, yes, Santa Cruz.
Maharaj?
Just mention it in passing, yes.
He thought the name Sokel sounds like so-called, meaning not authentic.
Ah, okay. I didn't hear that explanation from him, but I definitely heard from him that Sokel, what else can we say? I said, well, Santa Cruz. Yes, Santa Cruz. I didn't hear that. Okay, Kumkum. Thank you very much. You see, from each other, we get things always. Jai, so-called. And Rukmini Devi Dasi appeared. Well, she didn't appear, but her phone came. And she's there behind it. Dandavat Rukmini Devi Dasi. And Chinmoy Dev who also appeared.
Dandavat.
Dandavat, Dandavat. So first, let us give obeisances to each other. We've come together, and we've come together on the screen and in front of the Santa Cruz deities. So, Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha, Patitanam, Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha. Dandavats and good morning, or good evening, or good noon, depending on where you are. No one's in noon. Oh yes, somebody's in noon. No, not in noon. Yes, in noon. Achintya Krishnaru is in Australia, Sydney time, and actually noon, we can say.
Krishna Bianca's husband?
Say again, Rukmini Devi?
Is this Achintya Krishna?
Yes.
Oh, nice. I met him a long time ago.
Yeah, I can't see your photo. I would like to see it.
Wait a second.
And she has an iPhone, so it'll be very clear and crisp. At least one advantage of an iPhone. They do have good video. Hare Krishna. Oops. All right. Well, as Rukmini Devi is preparing to give us darshan, reveal her form, then we can give a reminder that last week we ended by saying, oh, because last time that we were together, I was talking so much because it was kind of festival time and I forgot to give others an opportunity. So I did ask the devotees, please bring something in your pocket because we're on Zoom and this isn't a one-way me talking and everybody listening. So I did ask that you can each bring something in your pocket to share with the devotees. And Rukmini Devi Dasi is now showing her form with an iPhone, but with only a candle and no electricity. Oh dear. Anyway, we can see you, Rukmini Devi. Jai Gurudev, Jai Guru Maharaj. We can see, as Gurudev would say, I'm happy to see your smiling face. Gurudev saying this, even when he's talking to devotees on the phone, Gurudev talking to the devotee on the phone, saying, I'm happy to see your smiling face. Because he's seeing the devotees by hearing. Guess what? Everything comes from hearing, from sound. Hare Krishna, and Jivana Devi Dasi has joined us from San Jose. A very tall woman by the looks of it. Hare Krishna. All right, so may we start today by me being quiet and passing over to the first one to put up their hand to share some treasure this week, to share something with the devotees. So where are all those hands going up? Yes, Kumkum Dasi is very humble. She's holding back, giving chance to others, but we all would like you to speak first also, Kumkum Dasi. You are the senior most here with us, along with Jivana Devirasi. So Jivana is lining up her treasure to distribute very soon. In the meantime, Kumkum Dasi, yes, please, we are all here to hear.
Well, I would actually always prefer to hear from the devotees because that's always enlivening. But a couple of weeks ago, Praneshwari Didi, she has this class for teenagers where she asked them to submit a question. And because they're teenagers, she guarantees total anonymity. They don't have to be embarrassed. They can speak exactly what's on their mind, no matter what it sounds like. And my heart is still very touched by one from a couple of weeks ago about, is God partial to some people? And
About, is God partial to some people? Okay.
Yeah. And it reminded me of how so many people think that maybe God doesn't like them, that things go badly in their life. It must mean that for some random reason. And so when I researched that, I saw so many beautiful points about how it's the perception comes from his granting us free will. So since and that's very, very important if we want to have a relationship with him, and he wants that more than anything, but he will never force it on us. And so we can end up in a situation where it appears that nothing's good is going our way. And conversely, if somebody just begins to try to submit to him or try to learn how to love him, then the feelings of his kindness, not that he's being partial to him, but just that he's allowing them to love him, means that they're feeling like everything in their life is going so well. So I was very grateful that she presented that question, and I had to research it.
And it's very difficult to enter into somebody's mind when they've got this idea, look what God has done to my father, or something like this. Mm-hmm. One time in Malaysia, just near the Lakshmi Narayan temple, the big temple in Malaysia, then one Hindu, like teenager, or not a teenager, older than teenager, he said, please come with me. And then, I mean, really, his mentality was so difficult, and how to penetrate. He took me and showed me his father, who got tubes and stuff, how unfortunately in the later time, then modern medicine tends to put tubes inside, and really tubes with the bottle, tubes for the oxygen, like tubes. And he said, look what God has done to my father. How can I believe in God? Then when they have that idea, then very difficult to penetrate that idea. Well, sorry to say, but God is all affectionate, and somehow he's giving some relief for something in the past. So sometimes it's easy to be philosophical, but difficult to transmit to somebody who's in pain. But with that attitude of, oh God, look what he's done to, but then still recognizing there's God somehow, but thinking that God is not a merciful God.
Yeah.
How would you get over that, Kumkum Dasi? What would you have said to that young man?
Well, of course, it's very important not to preach to somebody who has no faith at all. But if I perceived that they might have some faith, then I would try to explain about the option that he gives us, because he only wants our voluntary love. And so if we are around people who are well acquainted with that, with an open mind, then we might be able to understand. And also in that particular situation, to go back to basic Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 about the difference in the body and the soul, and how the soul is transmigrating but is never truly harmed. It just appears that way to us. And so how much treasure there is for us to be able to overcome the pain somewhat, if we understand that it's like if we have clothing and the clothing has become old or is useless, then it might hurt us. Our attachment, we once picked it out and really liked it, but now we can voluntarily give it up. So in the same way, when we come to see that the body is not the same as us, it's not really my father there. I had that experience when my father passed away, and I was called there, and it was quite sudden. And so they asked me and my brother if we wanted to see his body, and they warned us that he hadn't been prepared yet. He was going to be cremated, and so he didn't look like the kind of presentation that in the West they often make people look like fantastic. And when I saw him, and I just prayed silently to Gurudev to please be with him, and I said to my father, I'm thinking this is just his body, but I remembered him in my heart, and I said about what the Shraddha ceremony would be like. And so I told him about that, and how all relief would be coming to him, and about Srila Govinda Maharaj. And as it turned out, Srila Govinda Maharaj was in San Jose and performed his ceremony. So my father was a very fortunate soul. But it's not easy for somebody who's completely identifying with the body to step back and not feel extreme pain. It's one of the most fortunate reasons that we got our guru, is so that we don't have to go through that, because everybody will. If you love anybody, you will have to miss them at some point. So to understand that it's the body that is no longer valuable. It's useless. It's not the person that you love. But I don't know if I could succeed.
Actually, we can only try, and sometimes we have to make decisions, like think how to deal with the situation, what's appropriate to say at very short notice, like we're put on the spot. Anyhow, yes. Hare Krishna, and who knows what will come of everybody, those who show that kind of feeling about, oh, look what God did to my father, in the future. And he lives right beside, or extremely near, the Lakshmi Narayan temple, so he hears bhajans and things. So anyhow, at least he recognized this God. Hare Krishna. Anyway, Kumkum Dasi, with your heart appreciating very much your reply.
Maharaj, and I have to say on her behalf that every answer she gives is a master class.
Jai.
She really focuses and prepares the answer in a way that you're enchanted. You're enchanted because she's nourishing. I just inserted in the chat the question and a shloka that she presented and explained.
Amohang savabhuteshu namid veshyostina priyaha ye bhajanti tu mang bhaktya mayite teshu chapyaham. I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I am equal to all, but whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I am also a friend to him. Hare Krishna, very beautiful. Bhagavad Gita 9, chapter 9. All right, and Seva Rupa Devidasi from Mexico also joined to us, and now Dandavat to you. And I saw you on Facebook and was about to also, and I got the opportunity to give obeisances, and thank you for the message there. Appreciated to everybody. She's sending her obeisances, and she's with us now on Zoom too. And Raj, I think Raj Bhuvan Dev, I'll call you Raj. It's much easier for me straight away. And I'm sure your friends do too. So Raj, we're happy to have you with us regularly too. And Tungarasa Devidasi, welcome indeed. And our obeisances from us all to you too, Tungarasa Didi in Norway. And Nirupama Devidasi in Govinda land in Ukraine. These are who I have on my present list, but I know sometimes others are there who I don't see for some reason, because I don't understand how Facebook works. But to all of you, again, repeated obeisances and appreciation. Yes, Kumkum Didi, appreciate all of that. And I think the Praneshri Didi can perhaps put a link too to the, or the name of where we can hear those previous is it Bhakti Yoga for teens, we have Bhakti Yoga for kids, and we have back to the basics. At least
and a surprise is coming. Bhakti Yoga for all.
For old?
Yes. No, not old, but all. Because we have for kids, for teens, and now for all.
And what about the old?
Well, it's included in the all.
The kids get their slot, the teens get their slot. But what about the old? All right, okay, we accept it's included in the all. Jai. And where's our Jivana? Oh, Jivana's there. Yes, she's been in different places on the screen. Jivana Devidasi. I can see by the smile on your face, you've got something happy to share. But you have to press the button.
Only a smile because of all of you. And that was lovely what Praneshri and Kumkum brought up, because you just can't hear enough on this subject matter, because you can be in a class and then the minute you walk out, you can be hit with some disastrous thing that just, I mean, it's just one calamity after another really in this world, right? I know there's a verse in the Prophet Jivanamrita about, you know, just swimming in an ocean of calamities and just something like that. So that's such an important point and such a beautiful way that she's addressed it. You know, I was reading a little while ago in the Krishna book that I have the audiobooks, and I think it's from the Krishna book, chapter 19. It's called The Deliverance of Lord Shiva. And it's quite a long chapter, but it's so charming. And it starts off because Maharaj Pariksit asks Sukadeva Goswami, he says, hey, you know, Lord Shiva's always living in very poor, living in ashes and in a very, you know, just a loincloth practically that he's wearing. But his devotees are very wealthy. They get whatever they want. They have so many opulences. Krishna, on the other hand, he has so many opulences. He has so many palaces and queens and riches and jewels, but his devotees tend to be very poor. So that he was asking Sukadeva Goswami, so what can, you know, what is the story with this? I was laughing when I read that. I thought, wow, what a question, and coming from Maharaj Pariksit. And so Sukadeva Goswami starts to explain to him, and just briefly, because it's a long chapter, but just briefly, what he's telling him is that Krishna puts his devotees in difficulty and doesn't give them all kinds of opulences because he loves his devotees and he does not want them stuck in the material world. He wants them to come out. He wants to have them back in his abode. And he said, and Lord Shiva, he just is very easily pleased. He's just going to, you ask for it, you get it. That's pretty much it. You do some sacrifice for him and you can get what you want. I mean, we've heard how some demons, they get some really ridiculous boons, like that boon of, I think it was Banasura, who had like 1,000 arms.
Oh.
And that was the best one, Maharaj. What was that demon's name? That's at the end of this chapter. It's like the crowning jewel of the chapter. It's so great. I don't remember that demon's name. But
I don't remember the name either, but yeah, where he gave the boon that whose ever head you touch, it'll explode.
Yeah, and the Lord Shiva said, sure, no problem, I'll give it to you. And then that demon immediately turned on Lord Shiva and went to go hit his head, touch his head, and Lord Shiva had to just take off running, and this demon was following him everywhere. But anyway, at the end, it had a very, very funny ending. I don't know if I want to spoil it for anyone. You can read that chapter, Deliverance of Lord Shiva. But
it's ever fresh. You won't spoil any ending. It's ever fresh.
I won't tell it very nicely is the problem. But anyway, so then if I go back to that story and tell that story where Lord Shiva gave this ridiculous, this was a ridiculous demon. First of all, he was slicing off pieces of his own flesh. It was just terrible. And then finally, he still wasn't getting any boon from Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva contacted him. So he started to cut off his head. And then at that point, Lord Shiva was like, oh, okay, let me go there and see what he needs. And then that's when he asked for this boon. He said, okay, you can have whatever, what do you want? And he said, I want to be able to touch someone's head and it explodes. And so Lord Shiva said, okay. And then this whole story started that then the demon immediately turned on Lord Shiva and he ran to so many places to get relief, but nobody could give him relief. Plus they were afraid of this demon because the demon will touch their head. So wherever he went in the heavenly planets and upward, until he finally came to Lord Vishnu, to Krishna himself. And then Krishna said, told the demon, just sit down for a second, just relax, sit down for a second. Tell me what's going on. And the demon said, well, I have this boon and I'm trying to touch Lord Shiva's head. And Krishna said, Lord Shiva's a big cheater. He tells lies all the time. It's surely not true. And the demon got a little confused and he was like, oh, really? And then Krishna said, yeah, just touch your head. You'll see what I'm saying is true. And so the demon touched his own head and it exploded. But that was the at the end of this chapter. But that was Maharaj Parikshit's question to Sukadeva Goswami. And Sukadeva Goswami was explaining that, sure, the demigods, they can give you so many boons and benedictions, but Krishna is very careful what he gives to his devotees. And if he knows something's going to bring us down, he's not going to give it. And on the other hand, there may be some great difficulty that we go through, and but it's ultimately for our benefit. And just to say the verse that Madhusudana Maharaj always likes us to memorize from the Prabhupada Jivanamrita, that the best faith, it's the faith that by serving Krishna in every time, place, and circumstance, that is considered unconditional surrender, that to take refuge of Krishna's lotus feet in every time, place, and circumstance. So that was my
As
Jai, jai,
always,
jai.
beautiful. As always, beautiful, Jivana Dini.
Oh, you got to read that chapter. You'll love it.
Well, maybe you're reading Krishna book like many of us are reading Krishna book and going through the Krishna book because Krishna, it was his birthday recently, in case anybody didn't notice. And I know myself also, I've gone past it, but I haven't got to chapter 9 or 19, whichever chapter you mentioned.
I think it's 19, but you know how the Krishna book is divided differently. So I was listening to an audio book, so I thought it was 19, but it's called The Deliverance of Lord Shiva is the title.
Yeah, I can. Anyhow, yes. If I can quickly find KB1. Oh, well, it must be 19 because I'm on chapter 11 and I haven't come there yet. So,
Okay.
so Krishna book number 1, chapter 11. But I know they're numbered differently in different ways. It's true, in different places. Yes, dear devotees. Govinda, Govinda. And I saw Praneshri that he was doing the Spanish translation of Goswami Maharaj's 2 recent classes. But our Seva Rupa in Mexico is also very capable of doing those translations. We've heard also, I don't know Spanish, but we do listen in and hear who's translating into Spanish, Nityananda Prabhu's translating into Russian, simultaneous translation into Russian, and Sulakshana translating into Chinese. And it's a joy to hear the different languages being translated simultaneously. Again, Banasura, no? Chinmoy Dev has put
Bashmasura.
Basmasura. That's the name of the devotee who had touched his head. Chinmoy Dev, yes, okay. Bashmasura. I would not have, I didn't remember his name at all. With his exploding head, he was not Bashmasura anymore. Hare Krishna. Yes, so who else has brought a treasure with them? Thank you, Jivana Devirasi, Kumkum Didi, and all, yes, beautiful things. No one's putting up a hand. Seva Rupa of South Africa has something for us. I can tell, but she's being humble like everybody else. What do you have?
Dandavat Pranams, everyone, Dandavat Maharaj. It was just making me think of Kumkum Diri's answer this week when we were at the Mathura Vasini Didi's house and her son was relating a story, but I won't probably mention any names and things, but the way his explanation sounded also so sweet. And I think the question was posed as he was explaining how everyone is in different positions in this life. Like if someone was born into a kingdom and yet another person was born into into poverty, and how is that? How can one understand that? And he was saying that his explanation was that there has to be some past that we're coming from, like past lives and things which brings us to where we currently are. Because if we all understand that God is pure love, how do you explain, how can one understand then that everyone's in different positions, or someone might be like have bodily dysfunctions. So the understanding is that we all coming from a past, and in those past and from our past we can see that we living out what we currently have. Something to that. I might not be explaining it properly, but I was just thinking that was such a nice explaining, where I think human nature is to feel like to blame someone else and not take responsibility. And that's like anything in our lives, it's too hard to digest that we actually are responsible or to take any blame. And yeah, it was coming up a lot about how, with there's so much suffering, and at the same time, there's so much also ignorance, in the sense that nobody wants to or isn't ready to surrender or take to understanding, and how the understanding comes through mercy. I think it was yesterday, if I'm not taken, in the morning class at Vila Govinda, where you were reading that, I probably forget the names, but they were relatives, and the one was Sarvabhauma, I think.
Oh yes, we're reading from
Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was
Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Chaitanya Charitamrita.
When Mahaprabhu arrived in Puri, yes, for the first time.
Yes, and how Sarvabhauma was, he couldn't understand God, or that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was God, and they were having this discussion, and forgot his relative, who was saying, it comes through mercy and through the grace of God, and that the whole part is, how do you help someone, and even if you're unqualified, and so many people that are suffering, and at the same time, if they don't want to understand or aren't ready to. So that was quite, I think, quite a question in my head at the moment.
Also, it was a very funny conversation. It's the conversation between Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Gopinathacharya. And they're related, and so they're able to have various relationships with each other, being related. And so after their conversation, then Krishnadas Kaviraj did explain that because he was so closely related, then they were able to have these conversations, and sometimes Gopinathacharya blasphemed him, sometimes he praised him, and in different ways, but tried to get him to see about the personality of Godhead instead of the impersonal view of God, and that Mahaprabhu himself, that Mahaprabhu who's in front of him is that personality of Godhead. And then, finally it came down to, really quite funny. And so what are you saying? That you have the mercy of God and I don't have the mercy, therefore I can't see? And more or less Gopinath Bhattacharya saying, yes. But when you get the mercy, you will see. So great scholarship. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was the greatest scholar in India out of all of the great pandits at that time. And therefore, it is so relevant that he's so scholarly but couldn't catch it until he got the grace of the devotees, and then the grace of the Lord himself. When the Lord gave his grace, then ting, the penny dropped, as the English saying goes. The penny dropped, and then okay. But we haven't quite got there yet in the reading, so keep on listening. Maybe today we'll reach that point.
Maharaj.
Yes, Chinmay.
Well, I'm also reminded on this topic about, why does God do this? I had a friend who had an autistic child, and sometimes when she was out in public, this autistic child would have an episode, and people around her, the public, they may make some comment about her parenting skills and stuff like that, some derogatory comment. Oh
dear.
Yeah. And the thing they don't know is all the love and affection and care that she has given that child. They don't see that part. And so, we can take that into our experience of living 70, 60, 80, 90 years. What are we seeing in the infinite scale? We're seeing a very short time period. So the interactions that the Lord has with the Jiva soul, we're only seeing a tiny, insignificant part of it. So what actual judgment can we make about that?
Yes. And even Mother Jashoda with Krishna. If only we see her chastising Krishna and tying him up to a mortar and chasing him, and Krishna's crying, then, as Guru Maharaj points out, everything is with affection. With Krishna, with the child in this world also. Why does a mother chastise a child in this world? Because They want the child to be good. And so much affection is behind that. And so Mother Jashoda, the pure affection is there with Krishna. So yes.
There's
And what
also a story in the Bible, the story of
Mm.
Job, where the God and devil, they make a bet. They can take Job is a devotee of the Lord. And the devil says, if we take everything away from him, he'll no longer be your devotee. And the God says, okay, we'll make this bet. And so they do that. They take everything away from him. And he's still a devotee of the Lord, still loves the Lord. But at the end, Job asks, why did you do this to me? And God replies to him, where were you when the stars were created? Where were you when the earth was created? You know, saying like, you have a very tiny vision, but my vision is much greater. I'm seeing the whole thing and you are seeing only a tiny insignificant part.
Jai. Yes, and very good for us to keep that in mind. And about other things too, about the whole, like, World War III, let it be, and World War I has been World War II. And actually, I don't think they're the only world wars. You look in history and about every country, basically, it's quite barbaric. I mean, really horrific when you see the things that have taken place over the last centuries and how much reliable it is, the last millenniums, as it were, but certainly we see that. And then when Guru Maharaj is asked about World War III, etc., giving that idea, that conception, it's a point on a line on a plane on a solid, trying to get us to get our heads around the tininess of any events that are taking place in terms of eternal time. And it's all coming back to karma. It's all coming back to these things. And about the plague and about the fevers and everything like that. In Bhaktivinoda Thakur's biography, then it is mentioned about Bhaktivinoda Thakur and all the people in the village of his parents. And he went back to his parents and mother, maybe, I don't recall so specifically. But when he went back to the village, he said he heard the cries of many dead people, and he heard the cries of people wailing in suffering from the disease. This was happening in Bhaktivinoda Thakur's time. And then we hear about London, that London at the turn of last century, means the 1890s to the 1900s, then so many people died from some fever or another. So it's coming, it's going, it's coming, it's going, point on a line. It's not new. But Srila Prabhupada always saying, we got to get rid of the cause of the suffering, not just try to relieve the suffering. Relieve the suffering, okay, no problem. But the cause of the suffering, otherwise it'll just come back again. You just put something over the sore, give some relief, but it's going to come back again. And so I haven't heard anybody's decided to close any slaughterhouses or do anything like this, which one would think would be a good idea at this time. Hare Krishna. And millions of Srila Prabhupada's books are out there. In fact, over 500 million. One would hope more people would have picked up the thread. Hare Krishna. Yes, Paramananda, we need to invite Paramananda Prabhu because he's always got a treasure box, not only one treasure in his hand. And he has ancient treasure chests dating back to Mahaprabhu. Okay, and literally he's got treasure chests dating back to Mahaprabhu's time. So let's see what he's found in those treasure chests. Oh, he's going to show us one now. And what age?
Before he starts, in the chat is the link for the story that Jivana recommended us to relish.
Acha, Krishna book. Volume 2, Chapter 33. Oh, yes. Well, I haven't got there with this reading. Yes. Jai, the deliverance of Lord Shiva. Prabhupadabooks.com. Acha. Not sure I've ever seen that before.
This
Yes.
is the revelation.
The treasure chest does not date back to Mahaprabhu time, but Mahaprabhu is right here. It is the famous Mahaprabhu that Srila Goswami Maharaj asked of Guru Maharaj and Gurudev through his good agencies, convinced Srila Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
You should remember him.
Well, we certainly remember him, but my goodness. Jai Shriman Mahaprabhu ki Jai, Jai Shri Guru Gauranga Radha Govinda Sundar ki Jai.
We're doing a little work, little restoration work is necessary. So Mahaprabhu is visiting a farm and having a retreat here at the moment, and soon going back to the temple.
Did the Radha Krishna deities also arrive?
Yes, yes, everything is good. And devotees are also renewing their paint, and soon they will be giving darshan in their full glory. That's all I can say. Anyhow, it's an interesting
And they
conversation today. Yes, Maharaj. Yes.
No, I was just going to mention to Chinmadevu that as far as I know, isn't it so they arrived on Nandotsava?
Yes, actually, practically Janmashtami. They were traveling that night and they arrived early, very early in the morning on Nandotsav. That was a perfect arrangement.
Jai.
And today talks, the theme, I mean, I always surprise, just me maybe, I don't know, but really it's always astonishes me how people like to blame everyone and everything when they have some difficulties in their life, except themselves. That is just a miracle. It's one of those miracles that perhaps, it's actually, that's what Yudhishthira Maharaj is mentioning when Yamaraj, in disguise of a bird, asking different questions of Yudhishthira Maharaj. And as you know, all the Pandavas, they failed and they're lying dead-like state. And Yamaraj, he did some magic, and then what is the most amazing thing in this world? And Yudhishthira Maharaj is, answering those famous words. But really, in short, we can say is that everyone knows that the death will come and everything will be lost. Whatever you feel, whatever you are getting attached or feel attached in this life, it will all vanish like an illusion. Yet, even though everyone knows they're mortal, they live like they're immortals. In short, we can express it that way. And I remembered for some time I did some preaching in Russian gulags, like literal gulags, like Solzhenitsyn gulags, those places, they were still functioning in very early 90s, maybe still functioning, I do not know. But I can tell you that when you ask prisoners, they will all tell you that they're innocent and they're there by mistake. And you look at them, and they're like professional criminals, they're living for crime. And yet they're blaming the government. Oh, we were accused wrongly. We're all innocent. Just some weird mistake, etc. So I remember when you're preaching to these kind of people, you need to give very vivid and very simple. Don't go philosophical on them. They need some simple example. So my example is always, and really it worked. If you shit, in your pants, who would you blame for a bad smell around you? And somehow they got it right away. Really, it's all come to this point. We don't have to go into the deep philosophy, like Kumkum Dasi said. If you don't have a faith, no matter how hard you try to explain to a person who is asking that kind of question, they are not going to accept it. So give them some time. In fact, I would just prefer give them some prasadam. And this is how it always works. Just, oh yes, I'm very sympathetic, and yes, maybe this, maybe that, but here's some prasadam, have some tea, and then let's meet again and talk later about, like Jivana mentions, we're being warned about the situation in this world. Like that verse from Prapana Jivanamritam that you recall, it's Vividha Vivrita Vividha Bhati Branti Vega Tagati Balavati Bhavapure Majjate Me Vidure Asharana Ganabandhu Hakripa Kamudindo Sakrit Akrita Valambam Dehi Hasta Valambam. This is Rupa Goswami. He's just describing the situation, swept by the tide of hallucinations into the vast sea of frustration, praying for help. Please, Lord, just this one time, extend your hand. So you have to come to this point. You have to acknowledge that the only help you can get must come from above. Stop trying yourself. Stop blaming everybody. You commit the crime. You got to do the time. So if you're not ready, then don't do the crime. It's famous Sridhar Shravas Prabhu saying. What is it, Jivana? How does it sound properly? Do you remember?
If you can't do the time, don't do the crime.
Yeah, that sounds like a
Something like that,
Srila
yes.
Prabhu saying.
So, but there are also good news. Again, we hear from Guru Maharaj, and he is quoting the Shastra, and that is Samasrita epada pallava plavam mahatpadam Shunya punyaya shomurare bhavam buddhir vatsapadam parampadam padam yat vipadam natesham. So in Srimad Bhagavatam we hear this world is filled with dangers. Padam yat vipadam natesham. Every step is a danger. No matter where you go, you're always in danger. But for those who remember Murari, Krishna, Mukunda, Govinda, all the troubles, all the dangers of this world is just like the water, the vast ocean that we've been swept into by the tide of hallucination becomes as small as the tiny water, a little bit of water in the footprint of a cow. Don't need to worry about it. So it's come to the point of devotion, faith. So we have to develop that faith. And even though many people are not ready, we can give them chance. It may not happen this life, it will happen next life. They may not accept what you have to say right now, but they will accept something later. So very cleverly, Srila Gurudev pointed out, what is the main principle of preaching? And I thought about it for a while. I've been engaged in different preaching activities for quite some time, doing book distribution. To distribute books, you have to convince somebody, you got to preach, etc., etc., etc. So I wanted to hear from Srila Gurudev. So what is the mechanics? What is the secret of successful preaching? He just smiled and said, become their friend and give them some prasadam. The rest will come naturally. And really, it's the case. Once somebody is your friend and you feed them with very nice prasadam, they develop some trust. That means whatever you're going to say, they're not going to object, or at least not object heavily, and they will accept on one level or another. And sometimes they'll just accept because they see, oh, you're a happy person, you're not affected by the difficulties of this world, you're not blaming anybody, you're always humble, tolerant, always giving respect to others. And that is so attractive, trust me. People looking, they're searching for that, but they're just unable to implement it in their lives. But they're attracted by the personality of the devotees. So the main thing, become their friend, give them prasadam, and talk about Krishna when the time is right, when the person is right, when some faith enters the heart. And really, it is all by, again, we come to the point, by the grace of the devotee, it will happen. So that Brahmanda Brahmite kon Bhagavan Jiv. So wandering from one universe to another universe, at some point we do something pious. It may be as small as you passing by a group of singing Hare Krishnas on the street. And you may think, oh, those guys are cool. That's it. You got your Sukriti. Not this life, but next, you will have a better chance. It will come at some point. And then some faith The devotee will come, the agent of the Lord will come, and then the Lord will appear in the heart of such person through the agency of the one in whose heart the Lord is already residing. Maharaj.
Beautiful. Mercy, 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 heart-to-heart transmission, living devotional service. Life comes from life, devotion comes from devotion. By grace we will see. So many things come to mind while you're speaking. Hare Krishna. Yes, yes, and yes. And from any other quarter, anywhere, Kailash is with us. Kailash. The Himalayas have come to Zoom. Maybe, is Kailash a friend of Jayadev and Chintamani, maybe? I do not know. Oh, Kailash is a Chintamani. Okay, when we see your form, now we know what Kailash looks like. Okay. And we've got Sue Davies also joined us on the Facebook from Kiev in Ukraine. So all very welcome. And Chintamani Devi Dasi in the car. Watch the road. Oh, you're not the driver. Somebody else is driving. You have your own chauffeur. All right, very good.
We have Varun here. He's our rickshaw wala.
No, we're the servant.
Jai Varun, a good name. Hare Krishna. We have our dear Bengali devotee friend called Varun also. Hare Krishna. Yes, who has a contribution still for us? Maybe Rukmini.
Maharaj, I was thinking that I feel so distant from all those words because sometimes I used to say those things, and at one point I feel that if that is my experience, I may don't have that realization. Like I had a friend that have a baby that she had like paralyzed her body, and it's really very hard because sometimes devotees they said like it's your karma or her karma, and sometimes it's just like it's really complicated. I feel like I cannot be in that position. Like if I be in that situation, I may be like also complaining or just like feeling that it's not fair. I don't know. It's just like I don't feel more in that point, and it makes me sometimes just like to feel that I cannot preach too much because I don't have those kind of realizations. So it's very beautiful to hear all that the devotees are telling and speaking. And that's why I really need your association, because I really need to hear all those things all the time.
We need each other's association, and really it is the case. And we are discussing here a little bit about those who've got like severe disability or something very obvious. But in the world, everybody's going through their individual own like route wherever they are now. And we also have parents, and very topical. I mean, right now we have parents whose children are on, in serious condition with drugs, things like this. And it's very painful for the parents to see these things taking place. But at the same time, right now we've got people who going into difficulty with their relatives, and some people who are coming out of difficulty with their parents. One of our sweet devotees, son is coming out of the government guest house any moment now, any one of these days right now. And so now they're very happy, but at the same time, somebody else is going into difficulties. So it is very difficult. Everybody's got to go through but try to see how Guru Maharaj and Gurudev are always telling us that to harmonize with the environment. It's easy to say when you're not in the midst of it. It's much more difficult to do when we're in the midst of it. But it is Krishna's, it's Guru's direction for how to quickly get out from the difficulties of this world. And we're not hard-hearted, we're sympathetic, empathetic, if that is the right word. We have empathy, sympathy. And it's another stress to when we have like a favorable wind blowing or something, when we've got a comfortable time, then not to neglect that, to be grateful and utilize that time nicely when we are able to focus on Krishna consciousness, develop our Krishna consciousness, have our regular programs, utilize our freedom nicely. I look forward actually to talking with the devotee who's coming out from the government guest house, because he's also a devotee. The son is a devotee. We have naughty devotees and good devotees. Anyway, because I'm sure he's got some realizations and he's been there. He's had enough time to meditate. I mean, I think 3 years or something, he's had time to meditate in the government guest house. So, we do kind of look forward to talking with him with all affection. We know this devotee, we know since he was like very young. And so can definitely, have some goodwill for him. And he's a devotee. He got in bad association. You get in bad association and you take on that association. And that's another side of what Rukmini is saying, that if we can get into the association of the devotees, of the family, then we are getting also the good guidance and the good thoughts in our mind, all these things. So association is always stressed. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Sorry.
Yes.
Maharaj, I just wanted to also ask some, if we don't have much capacity to assist and not like, there was also some readings of how important chanting is. And if we try and at least do it as maybe sincerely or as best we can, it also helps to purify the environment.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, definitely. Everything. And by association, we'll be helped in our mood of chanting by associating when we don't have directly the devotee association side by side. We've got the Shastra, we've got the books, and we have the extremely special Shastra coming from Guru Maharaj, coming from Gurudev, coming from Srila Prabhupada. And there we are getting also repeated. Yesterday, I'm listening to Srila Govindamar speaking. I am there at the time he's speaking it, and I'm hearing again this. And honestly, how fresh, how new, and I'm, it's not, of course, there is the being there, there is that personal connection. But all of these, if I'd not been there and I was hearing this, then I'm also, thinking, oh, Gurudev is saying these things. And then, sometimes, because I'm me and we are all not perfect souls, sometimes I'm listening to a lecture and it seems like it's the first time I've ever heard it. And then my voice comes up and I'm saying something, and then I think, oh, it's not the first time I've heard it. But there are lectures on my phone also, which I've heard probably 10 times, or, within the last few months, because I have a folder which is on a loop, and ever fresh. Everything is ever fresh. So association with the devotees, but association with the scripture. And in some way, these talks, they're very living scripture that we're hearing their voices. And as it was being there in person. So we have an extreme wealth actually at this time, and readily available. It is not something which is hidden in some archive. And Guru Maharaj told about hidden in archive. He said that now in Germany, there are the scriptures which are no longer can be found in India, that from some time in the history, some German scholars, they had much interest in these scriptures from India, the old scriptures, and they took them and they're in some archive in Germany. I sometimes wonder, what is in those archives that we don't have access to anymore? But of course, we have access to the most important things, which are the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Bhagavat, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and Rupa Goswami's Upadeshamrita, etc. But nothing is lost. But the point is that the talks of our gurus and their transcripts and books, they're readily available. Just now, you see, we're looking for the chapter the chapter about the demon touching his head and everything, and immediately we all have access to reading it. We don't have to go to the library, look it up in the library and read in the library, or find where is the shop to find if the book is available and purchase the book. We have it immediately here. So we must appreciate what we have. Hare Krishna. The environment is friendly, despite all the difficulties that appear to be unfriendly.
Maharaj.
Yes.
What every devotee is like to hear something that Guru Maharaj collected on that particular subject from Prapanna Jivanamrita. The two verses.
Please tell us.
Both by Jamunacharya. So one is saying, should I just go with English, or you want to hear the whole thing?
No, tell us because you can. Please tell us the Sanskrit as well, because
all right, so then I will.
Folks like you are few and far between.
So it is Jamunacharya, and it's from the chapter of confidence in the Lord's protection. Adbhuta purvam mama bhavi kimba sarvam sahema sahajam hidukam kintu tvat agre sharanagatanam prabhavanatha natanirupaha. O Lord, after all, what unprecedented trials may befall me now? I can tolerate anything and everything, no doubt. And no doubt, he's saying, unhappiness is my natural companion. Nonetheless, it will not become you to allow to neglect of your surrendered soul, who now stands before you. And then the next verse by Yamunacharya again. Nirasha kashyapi natavadutsahe mahesha hatum tavapada pankajam rushanyarashto apishishuk standhayo najatumatus charanao jihasasi. O Almighty Lord, even if you make me hopeless, I can never leave your lotus feet in any condition. If the mother becomes angry and separates her child from her breast, does the child thereby leave the feet or shelter of his mother? So these are two verses out of, no doubt, many beautiful verses collected by Shastra Nipuna Srila Bhakti Rakak Sardar Dev Goswami Maharaj in Prapanna Jivanamrita. And really, like was expressed by one of Guru Maharaj's godbrother, and what was Paramananda Prabhu's sannyas name, Maharaj? You remember? Bhakti Gaurav Giri?
I'd have to check before I give a big
Anyhow, he was a big fan of Prapana Jivanavritam and read it daily and said, every time, every moment I open it, it nourishes me. It gives me hope. It was like a daily bread, daily food for that devotee. And really, it is that kind of book. So it answers everything we need. But on one condition, we can receive answers from that book. There is no doubt about that, but only on one condition. There's a pause.
Surrender.
Faith. That's the only requirement.
Then,
that's it.
Several things are going in my mind. However, it is it's gone past our time a little bit. And I was actually thinking, now Pranesha Didi, she's going to say, oh, faith. Yes, that's back to back the basics course number 4 or something like this. Because there opens up the subject of without faith, then nothing. With faith, then everything. And it's not even like a little faith. I mean, it's not even like we have to be like the perfect person. It's just that this faith element, it is so important. Even just a little faith, that's all that's being asked. Now with that faith, take the holy name, associate with the devotees, engage in service, chant congregation, take prasadam. Faith, faith, faith. With whatever little faith we get started, and then the dynamo will start going, the snowball. I know no snow in South Africa, no snow in Australia, no snow in many places. But take it from those who've been in the snow, that you get a snowball and roll it down the hill and it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. It starts just a little snowball, then it becomes a snowman. So our faith is like that.
Avalanche, Maharaj.
Avalanche, right?
Ahaituki apratihata. Causeless and unstoppable. Once Krishna decides to enter your heart, what can you do?
Hare Krishna. All right, dear devotees, a nourishing week, a nourishing day in your association. And Paunamasi Devidasi sending obeisances to everyone. Jagamohini Devidasi sending obeisances to everyone, recently joined on Facebook too. And to all of the devotees and to those who can't see Kailash, this is Achintya Krishna Prabhu from Australia, and he's happily we're seeing him and with us. And he's also a wonderful host. And we'll have a chat a little later on at your convenience. I sent a message to you, so if you can just, maybe you already replied me, I don't know. Ajinti Krishna, I'll take a look and see.
Maharaj, Dandavats from Rupa Vilas, from Sulakshana Didi, from Ana Bortoleto, which I forgot her spiritual name. You know it?
Anandamoy Vidasi.
Anandamoy.
Right.
In Italy, Banavi, Barbara Baldacchini, she has Banavi Yoga.
Yes.
Marcia Maschiero in Brazil, and Nirupama.
Okay. I don't know where you see these because I don't see them, but here we are. You've got some magic third dimension eye. And also Tangarasa Devidasi. Oh, well, she's asked a question, so maybe we can try to answer right now. There are some or maybe many devotees who chant japa, hearing a recording of japa chanted by Srila A.C. Bhaktivinoda Swami Prabhupada, or some other recordings. So I would like to ask, is it all right to chant like that? Okay, that's the full message. Very quickly, just as a very brief answer, I can say there are no hard and fast rules in chanting. And so we can say, well, there's no hard and fast rules in chanting. And but we can add to this also that Gurudev asked the Guru Maharaj, what should I do or think about when I'm chanting japa? And Gurudev said, should I sit in front of the deity and see the deity, or what should I do? And Guru Maharaj replied to Gurudev, Srila Govinda Maharaj, that when to chant the japa, we should be hearing. It's a hearing process of the chanting of the holy name. So what is favorable, but it's our hearing process probably, but we've been in those environments, and what is favorable for one, that can be favorable. So everything is all right in the chanting of the holy name, and the guidance of Guru Maharaj, and given in Search for Sri Krishna Reality, the beautiful, that guidance of Guru Maharaj when he's giving initiation, there we will take our reference point. And the main thing is that we will be attentive, but even more main thing is that we avoid the 10 offenses, learn the 10 offenses and avoid them. So yes, no hard and fast rules is my short answer for this. All right, the clock is ticking, the world goes round, some say, and time to continue our Seva day on this side of the world too. So dear devotees, we'll come together again on, well, Sunday means Thursday, Friday. So after 3 days, because a week is made of 7 days, halfway through the week is 3.5. So we have a separation of 4 and 3 rather than 3.5 days. So after 3 days, let us meet again. And any particular topic or any question, I like today, we very much like these days that you can please give your contribution, bring something in your pocket to share that you've read, that you've observed, something to help us continue positively in our Krishna conscious journey. And appreciating all contributors today, everybody who's with us today live, everybody who will be joining us presently in the recorded form. And Jai, big Jais to our wonderful Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, our wonderful Srila Bhakti Rockok Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, wonderful Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai, and wonderful but grand Lion Guru Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai. Jai Shri Rupanuga Guru Bhaga ki Jai. Jai Shri Harinama Sankirtan ki Jai. All the assembled devotees ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Saraswati Acharya Brinda ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol. Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhavya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dandavat Pranam. Wishing you successful Seva hours and days until we meet again soon.
Jai Bhakti Ranjan Madhusudan Maharaj ki Jai.
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 Dandavat, Maharaj.
Dandavat.
Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Ashchi.